So we think back about all the civilizations that we know of in recorded history, and one of the first valuable insights is that they all ended, right? And so if we read Joseph Tainter in The Collapse of Complex Societies, we see certain patterns of, and there are updates to that work since then, but we see certain patterns of how collapse occurs. But whether we're thinking about Sumeria or Mesopotamia or the Byzantine Empire or Rome, like none of them exist anymore. And there were actually elements of unsustainability in their own growth patterns that led to their self-termination. Even if there was an attack from outside, it was usually after there was increasing decoherence where they weren't able to have the military capacity that they previously had, etc. But they were all local collapses, right? The collapse of that empire, as big as it was, wasn't the collapse of it, everything. And so we're in a unique position now where the only the thing that we're looking at having collapse is a fully globalized civilization. And the collapses are all between catastrophic and existential, right? The collapse scenarios. And we are currently on the path for collapse scenarios. And so and it's important to get that many of those early cultures actually did ruin their environment. They had unsustainable agriculture that desertified the area and then people starved, right? But it didn't ruin the life support capacities of the planet writ large, right? Which is very different. And a lot of them killed each other militarily, but they didn't have nukes that could leave nuclear winter for a long time. And so if you think about the evolution of history from a game theoretic perspective, and you think of it as the evolution of power in win-lose games. And so you have tribes that, so long as the resource is plentiful relative to the population, don't bother killing each other. And as soon as the population outstrips the resource, they're competing implicitly for scarce resource. It becomes important to then compete explicitly. And so then one tribe kills the other one that has the riverfront. Now they don't have the competitor for the same resource and they have the riverfront. Life is better for them. Now, all the other tribes who didn't do that have to do that by default, or they're going to die from the ones that learned to start doing military strategy as a method of, advancing. And so then you have a big tribe. Little tribes can't compete, so a few of them band together. And now you get groups of tribes. And then, this continues to happen. And then you get villages and kingdoms and nation states and global economic trading blocks. And they increase their competitive power in a win-lose game on all sides. And so that means military power goes up. It means the ability to extract scarce resource from the environment, including unsustainably faster than it can reproduce. And they increase their propaganda capacity to disinform the other side and, have more adherence on their side. When you add the hockey stick part of an exponential tech curve to that win-lose game theoretic dynamic, and you get exponential military capacity where no side can actually deploy the power necessary to win without destroying the playing field. You get exponential extraction capacity where you actually run up to the fragility limits of the biosphere. You get exponential information tech applied with the incentive to disinform, and you get now a post-fact world where nobody knows what the fuck is true about anything. You get to the place where to try and continue to win at a win-lose game with exponential power equals omni-lose-lose equals existential collapse. And so either you figure out an omni-win-win game or you self-terminate. And that's the discrete phase shift. Basically, we've been in a win-lose game theoretic structure for a very long time, and that's the phase that's ending. And so then we either have a discrete phase shift up to an omni-win-win kind of model in which, when you say what is the larger body that they become organs of, all of the separate in-groups that define themselves in relationship to an out-group in a win-lose way actually dissolve here and become, and it doesn't mean there aren't levels of self-organization. A city is a real thing, right? It has a natural self-organizing dynamic. Tribes within it are real things. But the win-lose dynamics at the boundary have to go away. If you look at the cells within tissues, within organ systems in your body, your kidney's not competing against your liver for scarce resource. If it was, you would be dead very quickly. And so they have boundaries, right? Your cell has a boundary, but energy and information transmit across that boundary in an intersymbiotic way with the other things around it, right? And the same is true across all of the boundaries, right? Plants and animals and gas exchanges. So that's the key thing we have to get. So when we think about future fossils, there won't be future generations to be able to look at the fossils of this culture if we don't actually make this phase shift up. And if we do, they won't have to be looking at fossils because we will actually get down intergenerational knowledge transfer. So we are at a unique point in that whole historical curve right now.